Ready?
Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Paul Goldstein. I am chair of this Waterfront Parks and Cultural Committee of Community Board One. And let me just make sure you know that Andrew Zelter is also in attendance. He's the co-chair of the committee. And Onich James is our staffer who's here. Um, we have two items on tonight's agenda, and I'm very happy that both the people um, made it. Pam is there, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me start by introducing her formally. Pam Frederick is going to be our first presenter. She's wearing the hat of the Friends of Washington Market Park tonight. I should also mention that she's a very active person in the community. She runs, as most of you probably know, a newsletter that's well read down here called the Tribeca Citizen. She's the editor and she's the owner of it, and she does a great job. Thank you. It's hard to, I know how hard it is these days to produce those types of local newsletters, but you do it well. And
Guys, where would I be without CB1?
well, you'd have probably a little less to write about. But in any event, Wendy, let me throw it over to you, and you probably have a few people to introduce who are with you. And other than that, you're going to talk a little bit about your playground needs, I believe. So why don't you take it away? And thank you for coming again.
Thanks for having us. I'll go, if everyone can introduce themselves, I'll let them, we're, Friends of Washington Market Park is a volunteer board of about 15 people right now. So Kristen, why don't you just go down the line and everyone, yeah.
I'm Kristen Cordworker, live in Tribeca. I'm Evelyn Jones, so live in Tribeca. Kelly Weiss, same thing. We all joined the board over the past year.
Yeah.
We're friends.
And Allie and Amanda Lynn are our new presidents. We rotate out every couple of years and we're at that stage right now, the current presidents passing things off. But we want to come to you guys. I can back up the history of the Friends if you want. Do you want a little, like a quick history? It's not uninteresting for us wonky types. The park was founded in '78 and it was created by HPD, not the Parks Department. The current Catherine Freed was a council member and IPN was not yet really occupied, and there was a parking lot on the site and everyone was saying, we really need a park. We're about to we're about to have this whole row of houses, filled and or apartment buildings filled, and we need a park. So the land is dormitory authority land. So HPD ended up being the agency that not only created the park, but actually hired the designer. Like a friend of mine who was commissioner of HPD back in the day actually hired the designer who did Washington Market Park. So it's kind of came to be in a very strange way. It was operated as a private park. It was called Washington Market Community Park. It had a appointed, non-paid private board that ran it. It wasn't part of the Parks Department. And the folks that had the parking lot were given the Whole Foods lot, which I think was called 5C at the time. Mm-hmm. And in exchange for a much bigger piece of property, they had to pay $40,000 a month to maintain Washington Market Park. So that agreement went on till about 2000 when that site was sold to, you guys know, whoever developed the Whole Foods building. And that developer did not want to pay $40,000 a month. It was $40,000 a month for 40 years. That was the deal. So they paid out a lump sum and the park was transferred to the Parks Department. Not before, there was some embezzling by the old board, but you know, it wouldn't be a a all volunteer, community run organization without a little embezzlement, am I right on that one? So that, the board was dissolved, the Parks Department took it over. This lump sum, which we think is about $9 million, went to the Parks Department to be only spent on Washington Market Park. We are the vestigial remains of that Washington Market Park community. So when I joined, there were a couple gals in the neighborhood, you might even know Karen Hershey. They cleaned up the 501c3. There was all sorts of debt. We owed like $3,000 in taxes. We got a pro bono attorney. We like cleaned it all up, created a really more solid nonprofit. And the Parks Department for many years gave us $20,000 to spend on our events. So kind of in like as an agreement, since we had, the organization once had all the budget, right? And that's how we operated till about 5 years ago.
20K per month, you said? Or
20,000 a year.
a year.
Then about 5 years ago, we started thinking that that lump sum of money is gonna run out. So the lump sum of money that was 9 million in 2000 or whatever it was, is now dwindling. I think we know we have 3.3 million. And the park runs through about 400 grand a year with staffing. So we have decided to kind of change we gave the 20,000 back to the Parks Department. We raise our own money for the events, and we'll explain those in a minute. And that's kind of where we are now. We're a nonprofit. We see a future where we'll be raising a lot more money than we raise now. But up till now, what we've done is run those events and advocate for the park. We needle the parks. We have a really good relationship with the Parks Department, like great, like we're really good friends with our old district manager who got, moved upstairs. You guys might know Ralph Mussolino. Right, yeah. So we're like super buddy with Ralph. Like he texts me on Christmas morning, like that kind of thing. And he's always been very good to us about making sure our squeaky wheels get resolved, get the grease. And so that's what we've been doing up till now. So we came in here because we were doing a walkthrough with Tricia, with the Manhattan Borough Commissioner recently. And we had a list of problems we had with the playgrounds, which were done in 2003. You guys probably mostly remember that playground used to be one of those sunken 1970s numbers with the railroad ties. And they built that custom playroom that we have now. And Tricia and Ralph were like, we should just do this whole playground. So why don't I bump it to Kristen? I mean, because you've talked to those guys more about the estimate and where we're at.
Can I ask this is somewhat selfishly because of my own involvement in a nearby park. So you're running on $400,000 a year? Is that what you said?
That's what the Parks Department runs it. Well, you guys just saw the budget.
Higher than that, but.
I'm a little confused. So the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation owns this property now? Is that?
Yeah.
There's no ownership except for parks. And they are paying for the upkeep, which they have given you a number.
Well,
So
so we have the park staff it works and the park comes out of our dollar.
So Parks doesn't pay
Parks doesn't pay.
for any of that? What is
It's
Parks?
technically sitting in a parks bank account, so in theory, they're getting paid by parks, but it is the money that is left over from that lump sum.
No, it's like,
We have a dedicated funding stream and have since 1978.
Of the $9 million, which,
Right.
which you have now $3 million, I assume this is all public dollars, so.
Yeah,
You have $3 million and somehow invested.
Not
Yeah.
invested enough.
Because it's a 501. Okay.
Yeah. No, we don't
No.
have the money.
Parks has the money.
Parks have money, and from that,
Oh.
they pull
Yeah.
for the person who's working in the park.
Yeah.
And how many people are in the park?
Four.
4 people work there every day.
They have different shifts.
Yeah.
So there's usually 1 to 2 at a time, depending on.
And what is their job?
1 gardener, 2 maintenance.
It's not,
It's anyways, they take out the trash, they take out the trash, they're doing like clean up, yard cleans, yard cleanup, all like maintenance.
Committee, why don't we let them go through their presentation and we'll have the question and answers afterwards.
It's an interesting question and an interesting dynamic. Because if it wasn't that, it was just another park, it would just come from parks funding there, so, but we would have probably less dedicated staff.
I will note that having lived in Chelsea before I lived here, Clement Clark Moore's, like same size park, same functionality, doesn't have a lawn, but has a giant hardscape lawn-ish thing. Gated, same thing, 0 staff. So we have the staff we have because we have this funding stream.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's helpful, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt again.
So yeah, when I came on board about a year ago, I jumped in and kind of took the maintenance and beautification role. Originally I joined because I was kind of disappointed by the condition of the play equipment and the flooding, and I think a lot of issues that probably 311 gets regularly. And as we got further into it, we figured out, obviously, the play equipment is over 20 years old. Parks does its best to maintain it, but it's rotting away. The foundations are crumbling. You look under any of the play equipment, it's completely rusted. It's only maintained up to a certain point. So, there's a lot of infrastructure issues with the park. There's all the drainage that's there basically is tied back to
Oh, yeah, if you want to. Yeah, there are two, I brought two, our request to the borough president and the, council member, I brought, and Anish has it on the screen, just so you could see the pictures that we're talking about.
Yeah, so exactly. So you can kind of see as we scroll through this, the obvious issues, and then below the surface, there's actually quite a bit of infrastructure issues from.
Just scroll.
Yeah, the plumbing, I'm talking out of order. The plumbing, the drainage is, we've actually, with our own private funds, tried to, get the drains routed and cleaned, but they've determined that the pipes are old and it probably just collapsed and filled in. So even though we get grass from parks, which is lovely, it floods and it kills the grass, it's killing the trees at the end, there's a lot of bigger issues. So originally we had thought, oh, we'll do some fundraising and, on our own, and maybe we'll try to replace the broken play surface that people trip on all the time and hurt themselves. But as we got deeper and deeper into it, and when we met with Tricia, we really realized that it's kind of little interventions are only going to be short term, and that we're at the point where the park needs a much bigger, upgrade.
Kristen also got a little intervention budget from Parks, and it was $500,000. So then we.
Came from the 3 point, that came from the.
No, this was just an estimate to do the things that we thought had to be done right away, like the rotting timbers that are holding up the entire boat thing and.
Are you talking about the private funds or the funds?
No, the one that, Susie gave me, the estimate that we got originally from the research.
Oh, the research, yeah,
Yeah.
so I had asked them, because I think you guys probably are familiar, but if you do something with private money, it's a different process and a different amount of money than if you do it with city money. So we had asked, the Parks Department to give us real estimates with backup, if we were to raise the money, how we could, fix some of these problems, and it was, well over $500,000, which is a lot of money for,
How much? I'm sorry.
$500,000, and that's for pretty superficial work. So it was to replace the play surfaces, just refinish some of the equipment. Everybody wants to get rid of the sand pit because it contributes to the clogged drains and sanitation and other issues. So it was kind of simple things like that. And labor just with private funding would be $500,000, if not more. Yeah, you can see the rust is a good example there.
Those are monkey bars too, so that's something that is constantly used.
And I don't know if there are images that really do credit to the play surface distress. We also lost a piece of play equipment this year. There had been a train that was very beloved that just kept deteriorating, and they finally, Parks just took it away. So we also lost a whole area of play equipment. So Did I talk about our meeting with Triffids? I couldn't hear this.
Yeah.
So we've have been working with Parks, who have been wonderful. They've been a great partner with us. And we asked them to really give us a real budget if we were to go to the city agencies and state and city and ask for money. And they said realistically for them to do it, it would be 5.3 million. Yeah. All in, which is a significant number. There's a handful of things.
Sorry, you do what?
So I think they're, but to
It's,
Replace all three playgrounds.
all three, well, really four.
Yeah, really four.
There's also a water play area that no longer functions. That's a whole area that's useless now, because of, again, the drainage issues. So also replace that. It would replace all the hardscape. It would replace all the plumbing infrastructure, through the whole park. So all the drainage, not just by the playground, but the whole thing, the irrigation. We also, half of our lights don't work because the electrical lines are worn and obsolete. So it would be a general upgrade to, I'd say, the mechanical or the plumbing and electrical infrastructure, all new playgrounds, safe play surfaces, and a new water pipe.
and that was 5.3
3
million.
And so obviously it's going to be years for us to request and advocate for this to be able, you compile it, but this is sort of the start of that. And then in the interim, like we will continue to advocate and do things on a smaller scale to make the playground safe. But we know that from a private fundraising perspective, we would never be able to get the park to, where it needs to be. We also have a really bad rating. Park safety system.
Yeah, it's
What?
67.
What does that mean?
There's a rating system for the whole city where it rates the maintenance and usefulness and cleanliness of a park, and we're at 67, which is pretty low.
It's incredibly.
Incredibly low.
Yeah, 80s plus, right?
I mean, the
Yeah.
parks rates its own, it rates its own parks. So it's kind of funny, they're giving themselves a D or a C. What is a 67? It's a D, yeah. They have a rating system for all their own parks. And,
Even though they're staffed it with 4 people, which is more, you say, than most parks.
They are just maintenance. So anything that, maintenance in terms of picking up trash or blowing leaves or cleaning the bathroom, they actually don't have any jurisdiction to even touch anything maintenance related. So like if there's a broken plank, we have to wait for parks to send their dedicated team. They're the team that's on our site cannot touch it.
remember, 4 people's only 1 person at any given time.
Right.
Yeah.
They work flat for maybe a couple of hours in the middle. Yeah.
What's the condition about, sorry, can we just, let's get some more rhetorical questions? Because I know Alice has had her hand up. Are you,
Could I just hear one more time how 5.3 million would be for all the improvements that you think are needed? And what was that 500,000 that was initially mentioned?
$500,000 would be if we privately fundraise to do, just replace the play surfaces, refinish the existing equipment, which is tricky because it's powder coated metal equipment, so you can't really refinish, but we would clean it up the best that we could. And to replace a small portion of the play surface that was removed and just to remove the sand. So
And what would that be from the
sorry,
state?
guys, we have people jumping in. I just want to have some order to our questions. So is there anything you guys want to,
I'd say it's probably worth ignoring the 500,000 estimate for now and thinking about what a full redo of the park would do, because that will, well, the 500,000 is included in that 5.3. Like the things that are in that 500,000 would be better done with the 5.3, which is resurfacing, drainage, the full.
yeah, that's
full
probably.
It would only buy us like 2 years if we did the 500,000.
Right.
And we would just be back.
And it was based on private funding, would cost less than the cost parks to do all that work too.
The answer is the 500,000 is where we started with, and we thought we'll just raise money privately and try to fix the park. And when we figured out $500,000 is only gonna get us very little, a very superficial improvement, that's where Tricia came in and said, I really would recommend you actually go for the whole thing. You guys need it. The park is, we have a bad rating. We know you're 20+ years due. And so that's why we kind of have shifted from going through private fundraising to asking for, going for the park.
It's also just worth adding that we asked for the 2026 fiscal year from,
Well, that's what we're in.
right, yeah, right, but we've asked for some funding.
Okay, I'm a little lost, because I'm just noticing on your lovely looking website, I just put it up just to sort of get myself. And it says, we're thrilled to share that some exciting upgrades are coming to Washington Market Park in 2025. This was written this month.
Yes. Yeah.
Many of you may have noticed that the paved areas are in need of repair and one is looking better thanks to full funding from Councilmember Christopher
Yeah.
Marte.
We already got that.
So,
The New York City Parks will be upgrading our parks pathways in 2025. The new safer asphalt paths will enhance accessibility, improve the overall appearance of the park.
Yes,
And we're also looking forward to getting World Fair benches. Well, you didn't mention that.
that's because that's a done deal. We got that money.
That's an investment that the council member made on your behalf, which I think is part of the gestalt.
And what was the number that Marte allocated?
I don't know.
$180,000.
Wow,
much?
$180,000.
okay.
Well, we made that request 2 years ago because Park said Park said we have to do your paths. Can you ask the council member for money? So we did. The paths are not paid here.
Yeah, they're.
I'm not against it, I'm just trying to clarify what I'm reading.
We're
versus
in a
what
little
you're
out of order.
asking.
And if
Yeah.
we had included that in this, then the 5.3 would be, 5.5.
That's actually our next bullet point. We had got it.
So why don't we let them finish, because it might inform some of our questions. Is there anything?
So our next bullet point is that we're about to start a paving project, which was complete, we did that. That was request made in 2023 for fiscal year 2024. We know how this goes. And Marte awarded that money. Parks never spent the money. They never could get the project going. That's about to start. The park will close for that. That was something that was one of the reasons they have a 67% rating, because those paths are not. I mean, the park is just hitting critical. It's like one of the 20 years old. So that project is separate. The benches line that path that goes around the whole park. And Parks hates those benches. I don't know if you can picture them, but they're black powder coated steel that are like a mesh. And they're really impossible. They're custom. They're impossible to maintain. And they're really uncomfortable. Parks is very happy to take those away, and Ralph has been stockpiling World's Fair benches for us. As every park replaces its benches, he goes and snags them. So that's that project from fiscal year 2024. And like we said, and the reason we did the whole thing, or the reason I brought up that $500,000 thing, is we were going to do this private fundraising campaign. But when Parks said, we're gonna have to replace this entire playground within 3 to 5 years anyway, we thought it would be really crummy to fundraise from the community only to have those people watch the whole thing that they paid for get torn up within their child's lifetime.
And have the park closed twice
Yeah.
Right.
for a significant period of time.
So that's how we came to, and like I said, Alice, on the way in, it was really Trisha and Ralph on the walkthrough when we were saying we need this little fix and this little fix, who said, you really need the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah. And then we put the request in very late, like literally days before the deadline. And they very late got estimates from Steve Simon, and that's kind of where we're at now. And the last thing on the last bullet point is I just want, so probably Mandolin to talk about just the events we do, just so you know more about what we do other than this request.
Yeah, so we host about like 10 to 12 events a year. It includes concerts for kids. We have a musician come in and play some concerts for the young kids. We do a movie in the park every summer. We host our big annual Halloween parade and pumpkin carving contest. We have a Santa come to the park. We do It's My Park Day. We do that with parks and have community come and help plant some bulbs. We also host a few of our own community cleanup days. So we want the community to feel involved in the park. So everyone come and, we do some cleanup. We also do some planting on those days. I think I hit over this. Yeah, and we also have the community garden. So try to engage. The the community gardens are 48 plots that are maintained by individuals, but trying to host some events with those gardeners to teach, especially the young community members about planting in the gardens and at the butter. So we host a handful of events to keep people engaged in the community, bring them out, especially during summer.
And that's also, we really love those events.
Yeah. And that's what we privately like fund ourselves. So that's money that we have already fundraised or worked to fundraise, or sometimes we work with local sponsors in the neighborhood who want to.
We'd rather fundraise for.
We'd rather.
So Parks currently has approximately $3 million to spend on this renovation, right?
No,
No, that is,
So that $3 million
is
is
to
only going
maintain
to.
the staffing.
that's to
No, but
maintain the park for as long until it runs out.
Well, maybe there should be a reallocation of funds.
Well, when that money runs out, we will have 0 staff in that park.
In your estimate, the 5.3 million, does that include the comfort stations as well? What's?
No,
Okay.
it's just the playgrounds.
Those are be.
Because I think I've used it, I mean, it's functional, but it's not.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah,
very
they
good.
really poorly maintained.
That on their own.
Yeah, we were told if we had asked that, it would add another 5 million.
Got
Francis, did you have a question?
Lunch. I,
Go ahead.
full disclosure, I have no kids, but I love this committee because I'm really concerned about activities and things like your beautiful park. It's beautiful, considering all the problems that you're having with it.
I'm glad to say that even without the sod, because it's so much more beautiful when it's sodded.
I can imagine, and I'm jealous because I live on the east side, and we don't have anything like that. We were supposed to, imaginary playground is supposed to be something like that, right?
But I love it.
Yeah, but they had it for a while, 16 and up. So I'm trying to understand your park in relationship to what we don't have, like imaginary playground, and then that other little park.
The lorry?
No, that's not even a park, but like they got. The
More
little,
like the
the little
Battery.
triangle park there
Yeah.
on Water Street that has like a gazillion kids in there, you know, and it's not, it doesn't
The
look
one at the
any
end.
bit like, they look like they're trying to do something with, it, but it's just so overcrowded. But, yeah.
More akin, we're smaller and we're only 2.5 or 2.6 acres, but we're more like the Battery. You know, in that we have separate uses.
Yeah.
But,
I should mention, though, I'm glad you brought this up, but one of the other things about our park and our playground is it is used incredibly heavily by all the schools, the preschools.
Yeah.
And I forget,
234 and PS 89.
and Ralph told me, I forgot what the statistic was, but it had like the highest density or one of the highest densities of like usage of children of any playground in the city because it's like day when the school programs.
Yeah,
are
I
there.
could imagine.
Yeah, that's,
It's got all those trees.
The
and
shade.
It's just
I
like.
mean, it's, yeah.
So nice.
Yeah.
And my fantasy was that 250 Water Street would be a park like that. That was my biggest fantasy.
Well,
That is.
you know, part of the reason,
Sorry, Francis, did you have some questions?
No.
it wasn't always fenced in, and that's a big thing in parks, like conceptually. It was, when it was built, it wasn't fenced in.
Hmm.
Just like Clement Clark Moore wasn't fenced in. It got fenced in when they widened Greenwich Street and widened the sidewalks and stuff. And that does help make it nicer. I mean, I hate to say it, but if you keep people out after dark,
The question
Park
was
is
for me
nice.
to help figure this out.
Richard?
Yeah, a few questions. First, on the pavement thing, I've heard that the park is gonna be closed for 2 months. Is that right for the pavement? Is that correct?
They're estimating about 5 to 6 weeks.
Which, since I work in construction, I can tell you it's gonna be 8 to 10. There, I am
I've worked in
absolutely.
construction, it's probably gonna be
no-
12 to 15.
But I can tell. yeah.
Is there any way to do it in, yes? Because people have been talking to me about it, people with kids, they can't believe that. And when is it gonna start? So,
Great question. We had a spontaneous walkthrough today, that Parks told us about maybe 12 hours before, that they were coming with a contractor finally. They walked through, they told us that while it's not officially determined, it will probably be the first week of May. Obviously very quick news for us, but at the same time, we've been waiting for 2 years, so we're like, okay, we'll take it. I have been advocating for a phased plan for a year ago. The contractor, because of, we have a hard time with access to the site. The only way to actually bring in any construction equipment is basically through the middle of the playgrounds. They have to remove 2 of the fences because our main entrance is very narrow. And for a variety of reasons, yeah, so they have to basically remove 2 of the fence panels, and then they have to create a temporary construction entrance in. And there's just not really a way that they can, because of that access point, like, provide a safe environment for kids to come in.
What's the reason for doing it now, the prime of the summer? Why not do it started in earlier? No, autumn, why? The summer's the time everyone uses the prime.
We actually asked them to do it, we asked them to do it in July, which is actually our lower. Believe it or not,
Okay.
Tribeca is very wealthy. I don't know if you've gotten that memo.
I get it.
So, yeah,
Come around.
yeah, right. We asked, our lowest usage times are July and definitely August. We asked them to do it last July and August.
Okay.
After they blew through that date, we all decided to not ask them ever to delay. But I agree, May and June is the worst.
Yeah,
period.
we're,
All the end of the year, school parties happen.
Yeah.
It's the absolute worst.
Who's controlling the timing?
Parks.
And the contractor that they're able to get to do the work, they're able to do the work.
So, well, I'm not,
I was just asking.
oh, okay.
great question.
Is there anything that we can do? First of all, there's 2 things. A lot of people that are really curious about it, they don't know what's happening and why, and I think you do yourselves and all of us a service if you got out there and explain what's happening somehow or other.
We've been waiting for a start date.
For
I
information.
mean, I get it, it's not in your control, certainly.
They're writing about it like 3 times, but people
Still,
don't always look it up. When they give us a date, I'll definitely write about it again.
And we'll have.
and then,
Poster.
And we'll have signage up in the park. We also like have a newsletter with, 1,000 email addresses.
and is there any negotiating room on the timing here with Parks or the contractor? Is there anything that can be done?
Our fear Pam was saying that if we asked to delay it, it could be delayed again.
It's
Again,
not even
again.
our
This is
fear,
supposed to be happening
Parks'
2
fear.
years ago. It's finally happening.
If they buy out this project with 20 other projects with the same contractor. And so we're really at the contractor's mercy. When he finishes one, he shows up and says, I'm ready. That's why yesterday he said, okay, great, I'm ready to start talking about this one. Very out of my comfort zone, but that's how they do it. It was just bought in a group of projects. And so
So I have a separate question. Great that the pavement's being done, is funded. I understand that council member has also been able to allocate, at least so far, out of this year's budget, $250,000, which is certainly not 5.3 million. What would that buy? And what is the purpose? What would be the purpose of that?
so I'm sorry.
No.
Because I'm not sure he's doing it for a reason.
Buy anything.
And they also told us that if we were to use that money, then we will.
250.
It's 250, if we were to use it now, then we kind of compromise our opportunity to collect more money and do a bigger project. So we would be, and
So-
once we start using their capital funds for a project, then we sort of reset and go back in line for ever getting this with them. So they basically told us any money we get now, we should not spend.
Should aggregate for the.
You can aggregate, keep it, I suppose. Okay, well, then it's still useful.
Well, very useful.
But then I have another way of thinking about this. 5.3 million is a lot of money
A lot
to
of
raise in this day and age, at this time, given everything that's going on. I fail to see how that's going to happen quickly, to say the least. What kind of phasing could you do to deal with, first of all, the things that are dangerous or unsafe, emergency stuff, things that would really make an immediate difference? Because I don't see how you're going to get 5.3 million in any really reasonable timeframe, unless you were able to go out and raise a chunk of that yourself, as some of the other, Dwayne Park has raised money on their own. Maybe you can raise some on your own, but that's a lot of money, given where we are today.
We can't combine private and public money. So we can raise money on our own, but then it would have to be for a specific dedicated project that was separate from this project. So we could do another area for park. But if we start to put it into this and we contribute significant capital improvements, then unfortunately, we lose our opportunity to get additional funding. I asked all these same questions.
I'm sure you've asked every single one of them.
What I was hoping we could do is exactly sort of phase that out, or to have them do a portion, and maybe we could do another portion, or
Right.
contribute, as we go. The answer that the parks basically gave us is, it'll take years to raise this money, we know. I mean, years, I assume this is 10 years from now that we'll be able to actually do this
That
project.
sounds about right to me.
And so in the short term, in the interim, we have two paths. First of all, we can continue to advocate as we do to parks to continue, even just being in that meeting was very valuable. Like, we asked them, please at least bring us more sand to fill in the sand pit so people aren't wiping out trying to, because it's, down this much. Please scrape the rust off. And they have already started making those improvements. They had someone come look at the deteriorating wood. And the other portion is to try to do perhaps some of the interim work. Like, if they did assure me, if we were to privately replace like the trip hazards that are the play surface, that wouldn't impact like the future renovation in 10 years. So it may be a little bit of both to at least make it usable for my kid's life. Because by the time that honestly gets done, my kids won't be using that park anymore. Yeah,
I think
so
that's how you have to start to think about it.
absolutely, yeah. But I think if we don't ask now, then we'll be
No,
nowhere.
I didn't say not to
Yeah.
ask the plan for the big one, but
Yeah.
I think you need to make some real repairs and improvements immediately.
Well, we don't own the park. The Parks Department, this is their park, right? All we can do is advocate with our elected officials for the money. We do, like, they help us, like, we tell them things are wrong because we're in the park more than they are, frankly, except for their staff. We make sense. The borough commissioner's not in Washington Park on the regular. And we, they do what they can with requirements, contracts and stuff like that, but ultimately, it's not really our responsibility.
Sure.
They have to at some point, for example, we asked them to cut all those, you saw those wood pillars that go into the sand and they're being eaten away. We were like, we need a solution for these, or that playground has to, it's probably can't be that safe to have. And they were going to cut them, but they didn't. Like, we can't, even Ralph was surprised. He's like, where are those steel cups that we were putting on those pillars?
Who's Ralph?
Ralph Muslino. Like, how does that stuff happen with parks?
Yeah, and then they do things like if something breaks too much, like the drain, they just take it away and it never gets replaced. Yeah.
Who designed the park?
The playground, I don't know. The park, I'd have to go back in my files.
And is it the
And I
same?
met him. I did a walkthrough with him. It was so funny. He planted, we have a ring of trees that goes around the whole park, as you know. He said he planted double the amount that he wanted because he thought half of them would die and they all lived. And so now we have this really robust canopy, but also that's why we have so much trouble growing anything lower than a
Oh,
sycamore.
we've got some beautiful flowers and tulips there.
That's
Really
Our
gorgeous.
gardener, who's retiring.
So I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. And I have no basis of comparison necessarily, but 400,000 a year sounds like a lot for what you described as picking up garbage and,
Yes, it does.
do you have a sense?
It also includes things like, we have our sod replaced, so it includes the cost of the sod. It includes the cost of like bulbs, like flowers, that plants that we need to bring in. So everything that parks pays for it with other parks comes out of ours. So even like the trash bags or
Depends.
the toilet paper, like all of that, yeah, it comes out of the budget too, but agree.
It's really just the cost of people, though. That's what people.
Four people, that's $100,000 a person. It sounds like a good job.
No, but it's not. You know what parks workers make? They make under $20 an hour, most of them, and they are.
But we also pay towards their health insurance and all of their
Right.
benefits.
So I guess continuing down this line of questioning, do you have any sense what you could maintain the park for?
Oh, you mean if it was a private park? We fantasize
Or,
about
or
that.
if parks, if parks handed over the maintenance to Friends of Washington Market Park, like they do in some other parks.
Like the Central Park Conservancy. We fantasize about that. I have a son who worked for Hudson River Park in horticulture for 4 summers, and he was like, give me 1 week in that park. Just let me get my hands on that park.
Yeah.
You know, because we've grown affectionate with for some of our park staff, but they're not generally the best workers. You know, we've also had some crazy scenarios, like with some of the parks workers. If we ran it privately, yeah, we could probably maintain it we'd do it better.
Is that something you'd like to be able to take on?
You know, we're right now a very, very lean organization. We have 0 staff. We pay 0 money for anything. Even our events, the only things we hire on our events are talent. We run every event. Halloween has 3,000 people. We run it ourselves with some volunteer from Stuyvesant. You know, they have a volunteer club. So we are super lean. If we became like the Central Park Conservancy, very small, we'd have to really rethink our whole, you know, you'd have to have paid staff, you'd have to have insurance of the, you know, park, I don't know how that would work. We'd become a different beast, but
Right.
What's
Could
that
we do
number
it?
look like though?
but I have no idea. I mean,
I
probably.
mean, if somebody said, I can give you a check for 500,000.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the park right now is run, the idea is that there's always a human in that park. You know, there are kids there, the park is always staffed. The question I might ask is, would you continue to do that? Maybe you don't need to staff it all the time. I mean,
It's a fair question.
you know, like maybe what you do instead is you have one person working a 40-hour week who's really good. And then you have a part-time ED who pays that guy.
And I guess where I was going with this, perhaps coming back to the question Alice asked, is there an opportunity to repurpose that 3.3 million toward the 5.3 with some kind of understanding that the Parks Department's ongoing commitment won't be $400,000 a year?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Maybe it's one person for $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
A combination of parks and a more fully built out Friends of type of scenario. Right.
And I didn't get, that's where you were going, Alice. But that's a really interesting thought because you don't get big capital very often. We've always dreaded that day. We've always, like, institutionally, we've been like, we're a ticking time bomb. Someday we're gonna be a shit park because we're not gonna have any staff in it. But maybe that's a bad way to look at it. Maybe we should say we can function on less.
So we were in Tricia's office last week and kind of asked that question.
And then that pivots to how can the electeds help drive that strategy if that's something you wanted to pursue? Because I don't think Parks is going to readily handle.
They're very protective of
Right.
that.
I don't think that's a conversation with Parks. I think that's a conversation with the electeds that
Right.
here's the pathway forward to restore this park to its function. And again, I'm thinking this may be so far left field, but
It's
you
a good
mentioned,
line to pursue.
but you mentioned schools. Again, I wouldn't see them as the be all end all for maintenance, but the schools and the parent body. Once you have a park that really is beautiful and more functional, again, maybe that's a resource to help supplement some of that maintenance.
Well, our goal, what we've talked about, we haven't really settled on it because we feel like we have this 3 to 5 year window. What we've talked about, and I started this at the top, that we intend that we will have to become a better fundraising group. And we've never really tried because we didn't have to. And Amanda Lynn and Ally and Kristen have much better heads for that, thank God, because a lot of us used to argue the more money we raise, the less parks will spend on the park. And we think one option moving forward is we raise a capital maintenance fund.
Right.
Yeah.
And that we say we're gonna raise 200 grand every year
I think that's.
for capital maintenance, and then when the gate to the playground breaks, or when the bathroom windows need to be replaced, or we can do it privately.
Yeah.
For a fraction of it.
Our time,
Yes.
And then I don't know if you have the answer to this question, but you implied that bringing in private resources, but having the parks do the work would be more costly than if parks owned the project.
yes.
If parks didn't own the project,
It
And
would
it's
be
the
a
best.
third, it would be a third of the cost.
so
Just said
that,
that
so
for-
that would take 5.3 down to whatever.
Great.
Potentially the 3.3 covers it.
But
And
that, they wouldn't give
again,
us.
parks, I agree, parks might not, but this is where the community board and the electeds really might be able to add some juice to the conversation.
If they.
Parks got this money by virtue,
Do it privately.
but parks got this money by virtue of what happened with,
HPD got them the money.
so. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just,
I like-
I'm at the benefit of the 20 minutes we're speaking, but.
I would love nothing more than to do it. I have done many parks in the city. I did Brooklyn Bridge Park, I was involved with Little Island.
Which
very.
gives credibility to the.
And so I know how it can be done if it's done through a different process. And I've also done city parks, so I also know the city park process as well. And so they're different, they're just different animals. The problem is you can't combine them.
Mhm.
And so if there was a world where like the elected officials could help us make that happen and it could be handled privately, that would be incredible.
Well, they can give money to nonprofits.
Well, it's money that's specifically earmarked for Washington Market Park. So that 3.3 million is earmarked
Yeah.
in some capacity for Washington Market Park. It's one of the worst scored or rated parks in the city. There's a group that's engaged in driving its improvement that can possibly get the project done for 3.3 million versus 5.3 million. That's a win-win for everyone.
And you're saying the electeds would just award the money to the nonprofit, not to the.
Well, the electeds might be able to advocate getting that money reallocated from parks to.
They can.
Can't do it themselves, they can advocate and negotiate.
Right.
I don't know what they can do other than advocate, quite honestly.
Well, right. Yeah, I was thinking they could also award money, having done, you guys probably all on some level done this too, having applied for discretionary funding for a couple of decades almost. They can give money to nonprofits on,
They can.
that's one of the boxes you check. Are you city-owned property or are you a nonprofit? So.
But you're asking a different question.
Yeah, no, I know. I was thinking that that's one, they move the money over if possible.
Yeah, I would say the first thing that just, that was the cohesion I was going for. But the one part that makes no sense, which we're all pointing out, is the $400,000 for all the employees, and I suspect you feel the same way. So it seems like that's a very accessible kind of talk and negotiation potentially to rethink that in some way. And I've spoken because of my involvement with this little witch of a park, Barnett Newman. We've talked to all the heads of the different pedestrian plazas, and there, of course, they have signed an agreement with DOT to maintain the plazas, and none of them, even Gotham, is paying, it's around 50, I think, at most, and not every year for the maintenance. And
Right, but they have people in there, like Wayne Park. That costs, I think those guys spend about, what, 25, 30 a year to maintain Wayne Park?
I don't,
They have zero staff. Right.
just saying the terms of that maintenance question of what it would take, I think
Yeah.
those numbers are a little inflated to say the least. Anyway, yeah.
I mean, it's a very good question. We've always been loath to tell them how to do their business, right? Like, it's a weird dance that you do with parks. If they were here, I wouldn't be talking this way. But, it's their property, it's their business. We think we know, but we don't know. I've never run a park. Kristen, you've gotten close to running park. But, we never really, you can't really say to Nam Yoon or someone, you're doing it wrong.
No, but you could just work together to find a solution to get the money, as we're, you're trying to reallocate
Right,
basically and
right.
make things happen to the betterment of everybody involved.
Right.
That's really.
I personally would like to suggest maybe we have a follow-up meeting, not with the full board, any of the board members interested, meeting with you all to flesh this conversation out a bit
Yeah,
more.
it'd be great. This has
That'd be
been really
really
productive.
helpful.
It's totally opened my eyes, I think, because I've been in since I joined the park.
I'd like to make a few comments. If we have a meeting with this group, I think they should tell us what their priorities are, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they should tell us the money they have. I think they tell us the money they think they're gonna have, and let's find out their connection with the city parks.
Sorry, which
Too much is rambling here. We're going from one topic to another, and I don't know what their priorities are, 1, 2, and 3.
We can do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
We can do that. We have that, so we can easily lay that for the next meeting.
Great, thanks, Joe. Anyone else? Okay. I'd like to connect with you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome. You have an easy commute.
So the 400,000, is that contractual or that's the bill that you get?
That's the best. We don't even really get the bill.
We don't get
It comes out of the bank.
That's what we're told.
So does it have to be 400 or?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so I think also so if something isn't monitored, then it's easy to escalate. If no one is monitoring or,
Department is monitoring.
yeah, but they're used, yeah.
And we're constantly advocating for like, they should be doing a better job, or, there hasn't been people in the park, but yes, I think it's.
I mean,
great.
monitoring who's charging, I mean, okay, no one's stealing, I'm not saying that, but when people know or entity knows somebody else can question what this amount is, it'll tend to, lower.
Well, we always felt, do you guys remember Nam Yoon? He was a deputy, Manhattan, operations guy.
Yeah.
And he was great to work with, and he was really, really cheap. And his whole thing was, let's make this money stretch as long as we can, because once your money runs out, I'm fucked on operations, sorry for my language, I'm screwed at operations, because now I have to find the money to maintain your park out of my general budget. So they did try to stretch it. But I don't disagree, that seems like a lot. I just know that, I just think that's likely they should, but we could rethink it entirely. And maybe the logic is, if that's running out in 5 years, why not run out tomorrow?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a really good.
So
thought.
I just looked up the exacts from our meeting last week. We have 3.192, so just under 3.2. Our spend is about 312 grand a year for 4
Oh.
staff people. And then about 35 to 40K a year for other sod supplies, so it's about 350 a year. And they expect that to go up about 10% every year.
Yeah.
Based on, right, the cost of it. Terrible.
Can we wrap it up?
Yeah,
I just want to repeat myself, if I may, reiterate. I encourage you to think about some kind of reconsideration of what you could spend some money on now, if you had something substantive. If you had 250 or $500,000 or $1 million, would you spend it now and do something, and what would that be? And I want that to be part of the conversation. Public money, public money. If you got an allocation from the city in this year's budget process, which I know the council member is trying to get, I don't know how successful it'll be, would be substantive. It's already 250, that much I know.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be a lot more than that. But if you got that, do you have a plan? And I encourage you to have a plan of what to do with it.
right, for
I
the,
think it would be it would be some of the priorities that were in that $500,000 estimate, because those are really focused on safety, right? Like at the end of the day, we want our park to be safe, which is like about.
But what you said was you wouldn't spend it. You would
We
just
didn't want to spend, we didn't want to spend it if we raised it privately, because we didn't want to have private donors.
Oh, and I totally misunderstood.
no, you did it, you did it because if we spend that 250 on fixes that would then be undone by a general renovation,
I
we
see.
have a harder
But
time.
it might be different if you have something more, 500,000 or 1 million or.
I mean, to be honest with you, I like, I hear about the unsexy items, I would put it towards plumbing.
Yeah.
I think first of all, it's very,
Everybody needs plumbing.
it's very hard to raise money for plumbing infrastructure. People are very excited to give you money for swing set because they can, it's tangible. But the trees on the western side of the park are dying. They're not gonna survive because the flooding is so substantial over there. I was Richie, every time we're there, it's like, we have to
And
say
it's-
goodbye to
it's-
these trees.
It's ruining the sod, like every year we re-sod and it
Yeah.
completely, because of the plumbing issues, it's.
We have no drinking fountains.
And
We
it's-
don't have.
and
no-
it becomes a lake, like it's mud.
So for me, if you were to say the city gave us money, I mean, I'm speaking
Yeah.
for, but I would put something like that towards infrastructure and things that are much harder to raise money, private money for. And then I would raise private money for the prettier things like a play service.
So, I mean, I think what,
Last comment. Let's-
no, I think that conversation is great and I think should continue, but I also encourage you to.
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Richard, I'll tell you, the people that are complaining to you about the parking flows, I will tell you, they're the same people who complain to us that the paths need to be repaired. We all
Which
know,
they do.
you guys know that, you guys know that more than anyone.
That's-
But it is.
Thank you for your help.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
One more time. Okay, Paul?
Okay, let me take the reins and introduce the second item. For that one, we have Robert LaValva here. And for old timers like me, we have worked with Robert over the years. He ran a very successful, in my opinion, farmer's market, or I don't know exactly what you call it, public market on South Street between the years, I think it was 2005 to 2014. And it drew many vendors from this area or from beyond this area. And anyway, it served the community well. It was very popular. Robert is now interested in reviving that for one day, at least. That's what he's proposed to us, a one-day public market right below the building that you're in, the south side of the municipal building. So I don't know exactly when he wants to do this, but I know he'd like some encouragement and support from the community board. So let Robert go next. And Joe, I would recommend
I spent many
we give him a chance to present.
That's okay, Paul. I just want to double what you said. Very, very well run market that he had down here at the Seaport. Excellent work.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your kind introduction. Nice to meet you all this evening. Yes, and I have here a resolution passed by Community Board 1 I think this was 2006, but yes, September 19, 2006. But yeah, here's an image of the market at the Seaport. And it was called New Amsterdam Market, and it was, what Paul didn't mention, it was also a campaign to save the Old Fulton Fish Market that I was trying to save from being developed. But the reason I'm no longer doing it is I was not successful in that campaign. But the market itself drew many, many people to the Seaport. And in the years since, I've remained involved with the market. While it was a campaign to save the fish market, but it was its own initiative. I worked with a lot of regional food producers, purveyors, farmers, what have you, And I've remained involved with them over the years as in consulting and other projects. I was very involved with the redevelopment of the Essex market in the Lower East Side. I'm actually involved with the project to revitalize an old public market in Buffalo, New York right now. But the market at the Seaport became the identity of New Amsterdam Market, but the very first New Amsterdam Market was actually held in the year 2005 in the arcade of the municipal building, and here's some photos of that event. It was a space that I always found very, very beautiful and very underutilized in the city, and wanted to hold a market there. And I was at the time, I knew the commissioner of DPAS, Martha Hurst, who had been a commissioner at the sanitation department where I had worked early in my career. And so it was as simple as asking her if I could hold an event there. I had to fill out the paperwork and get the insurance, but that's where we held the market. And now, 20 years later, 2025, I thought of reviving the market for a day as an anniversary celebration, and would likely do so in the fall. Again, this was in October of 2005. And but before beginning the process of understanding how to get a permit to do it and so on, and I did speak with Zach, and he's going to put me in touch with DCAS. I thought I got in touch with people I knew on the board, and led me back to Paul, and I was encouraged to come and present the idea to you all. I didn't make a formal presentation because this is a very preliminary description. I haven't fully gone forward and planned this event yet, but I wanted to at least test the waters and see whether it would be possible to use this site for a day. I don't personally see why not. I think it should be utilized. I know that there's always issues with the police plaza, and they're always worried about people being, or they were back in the time. That was right after 9/11. Maybe things have changed. It's a public space, it's a public site, so it'd be nice to animate it for a day with.
Well, the only thing wrong with this proposal from where I sit is that it's only for a day. It's a potential pilot.
For some kind of regular once a month.
Sure. Well, see, you can never know what can grow out of an event. But yeah, anyway, that's the extent of what I wanted to discuss.
Have you ever done a one-day event?
Sure.
And what have they been like, and how successful or unsuccessful?
Well, it all depends on how you count a day, because for example, when I had the Seaport, when I did the market at the South Reef Seaport, the first time I held it there was a one-day event in 2007. Then I did it one day in 2008. Then I did it once a month for 4 months in 2009, and then it started to become a weekly event. So it all depends on where you start counting from.
Started the first one.
Last year I put together an event for Little Island. That was a 3-4 day.
A market?
Yeah,
Really?
right on Little Island.
Right on the plaza there?
It was an oyster themed market that was in their central playground area.
Wow.
Who were the merchants? I mean, how does
Vendors.
yeah, vendors.
So for this particular, you mean in general, in the
No,
past,
what
for
you're
this,
proposing.
what I propose, I've always worked with promoting regional agriculture and regional food production. So without naming anyone specifically, it would be people who are involved with food. And the differentiation from the green markets that we have is that it's not really limited to farmers only. So you might have, and what I've been doing some work on projects involving regional grain production. So in this market would likely celebrate the growth of regional grain production. So there would be farmers who grow the grain, bakers who bake with the grain, millers who are milling the grain, malters who are malting the grain, distillers, what have you. That's sort of a universe of people associated with this resurgence of local grain. So that might be the theme of this event. And those are the kind of people you would likely see there. So maybe a lot of bread, pastries, things of that sort. But when we at the market, when I had New Amsterdam Market at the South Street Seaport, it was a weekly food market, but we then also used it as a platform for holding many thematic food events. So we had events relating to fish and fisheries. We had events relating to pickles. We had cheese events. We had all kinds of food-related thematic events that, again, were promoting regional agriculture and food production. So it would be something along those lines.
What size, like the scale, would this just be underneath the municipal building, or would it extend to where we have the red bricks, you know, where closer to St. Andrews?
Yeah, most likely in the southern arcade, which is where the subway entrance comes up, because it's covered. I am also interested in the, I guess it's a continuation of Chambers Street. There's a street part, but then on either side there's two pathways that are also covered. And I know from talking to Zach that there's certainly been many city-sponsored informational events put in those passageways. I think I would primarily try to limit it to the covered spaces.
Okay.
But when I make contact with DCAS, I'll learn the ins and outs of what could be involved with any of the spaces.
Because the train station is there.
Yeah, but as long as you leave room for people to come in, that is actually wonderful because it brings more traffic. So,
Where it is now in front of, at Bowling Green, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a market right there.
Would porta johns be provided?
you know, I would consider that. I think it always helps make an event more pleasant for people
Yes.
who are attending and for the vendors, and especially, I don't think in this, I'm trying to remember, it's 20 years ago what we did. I think we found a way to let people use them. I really don't
Okay.
remember what we did, but it's always good to keep that in mind.
Many vendors, what number?
When I did it 20 years ago, I had 55 different stalls. I was looking back, there's a list of them all.
Is this the, what book are you?
It's just a collection of images that I gathered over the years as a way to show what I've been working on. Once I was
If you
coming.
fit that many in that area?
Yeah, it's actually, yeah, but I would certainly not try to exceed any natural limitations of the space, otherwise it's not pleasant gathering. But there's a lot of room there.
You didn't quite answer my question.
Sorry.
About how successful or not a single day event has been.
I guess I would say,
How you would.
How do you measure it?
how do you measure? I would venture to say that if I were to hold a one-day market, anniversary market of New Amsterdam Market, I feel it would draw quite a good audience because we had many loyal supporters and followers who are still on my email list after all these years. So I feel it would, and it would get pretty good coverage because it's an unusual kind of
How in the
happening.
past have the vendors made a profit in a single day event?
Depending on what they're selling, but primarily the interest in participating in this market was not so much profit driven, but more for promotional purposes, for marketing, for branding, because of the nature of the kind of, it was very curated in terms of who was there. So people wanted to be there because they could be identified with being part of that market. So it was worth it for them.
A couple of questions. Apologies if I missed this.
No,
Do you
no.
have a potential date?
Somewhere in early October.
Okay.
That's very roughly what I'm thinking.
And what would the permitting process, I mean, who would ultimately have to give you the go-ahead?
That is something I need to find out. As I was saying, I know it's become a lot easier in recent years to hold street fairs and similar events prior to what it used to be, because after COVID, a lot of rules of that nature were changed and the open streets was instituted. So I'm assuming it would probably go through SAPO
Okay.
in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But there may be some other, because it's not a typical event site, I'm not sure if there might be some other permitting process involved.
Right. And apologies for this question. It sounds like you've had great success. Is this your profession?
No,
Is this a side gig?
no, at the time that I was doing it, it was a labor of love for the most part. My profession has since then been in consulting with public space projects, placemaking, food related projects. This would be probably more of a labor of love. I don't see this as a money-making enterprise. It would be more of a celebration. But it would be more done for the spirit of that community, sure.
For me, I would think, if you're gonna do one day, you might as well take both days of the weekend.
Potentially.
That, I mean, just makes sense for the vendors as well as the setup and mobilization.
You're right that when you
And then
go through
clean
it all, yeah, you're right, that when you go to the effort of setting it up, you might as well, and that's a good suggestion, I will certainly take that into consideration, and certainly in asking for any permitting, you might as well see if that's possible, and then if we can fill the 2 days, great.
And just in case for some people can't make it on one day, they have to work on a Saturday or vice versa.
Yes,
Sunday.
and most likely this would be a weekend
Yeah.
event. It's- For all reasons, it makes sense, you get better attendance.
And I'm thinking would not conflict with the city's operations.
Right.
I'm curious why that location, did you consider the seaport, I imagine, obviously the location no longer, but I'm just curious,
Yeah.
you know.
I think primarily because I don't think I would consider the seaport, that was water under the bridge, and I'm not going back there. And then it made me think, well, the first time I did it was here, so, and it's 20 years ago, so that, and I always thought that it was a beautiful space that could benefit from people coming to be in it. And I remember actually the first time when we had the market there, that was one of the comments that many people made was, people who live in New York City would say, I never knew this space was here. How wonderful that you brought us here. The vendors felt very celebrated to be in this grand, that arcade was built because back in the day, that's where you would come up from the underground trains and transfer to the elevated lines that would take you over the Brooklyn Bridge. So it was meant to be a public use space. Then when the systems were changed, that function disappeared and it just became a somewhat abandoned space.
So, Paul, on the agenda, it suggested that this might be a possible resolution item. Are we at that stage yet to consider it, or was this just more effort?
Well, that's what I'm thinking now. Maybe we could just support conceptually the idea of putting a new market and him working with SAPO or whatever city agency is responsible for that space, and then bring it back to the community board when it's a little more formulated.
Yeah, I would certainly want to do a lot more work on my part. But when I spoke with Zach about it, he still thought it would be a good idea to inform you all about what I'm thinking. But yes, and I will educate myself on what may be required to be able to do this, and maybe I'll come back even next month or whenever I can with a fuller presentation and more specific
I think you
information.
gauged a strong degree of interest and.
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much, I really appreciate it.
I do have one more question. In relation to the other markets, how do you see this working? Would it be a conflict? Would it be a problem for the other markets? Do you need approval from the other, from the organization running the green markets?
No, for a number of reasons. One, because it's a one-day event, so it's not competing with anyone or two, a weekend event. But secondly, because in fact, what emerged was the New Amsterdam market had a very synergistic relationship with the green market because of the fact that they, by their own rules, are really restricted to farmers only. We were able to kind of provide a venue for people who were supportive and very much aligned with the values of the green market, but for their own reasons wouldn't be able to sell or showcase at the green market, but they could come to our market. So we actually collaborated on a number of projects like that.
So do you think it would be productive for you to have another conversation with this committee in a month or two when you have?
Yes.
So you think at that would be a plan, Andrew, that perhaps we could think about?
Yeah, I will do my homework, and when I have something substantive to present to you, I'll be in touch and let you know. And I'll get myself on the agenda for when I have enough to present. So
And to the extent SAPO is involved, don't they require 90 days? notice?
90, yeah. So that's why I know it's a lot time is of the essence, but there's a little time.
Yeah.
And it's definitely better than it used to be, because it used to be a year in advance, so.
Cool. Sorry,
Should
Jim.
there be any, connection with our street activities?
Yeah, I was wondering the same. Why don't we see what he comes back?
Street activities.
Possibly, I had that thought, but let's see what comes back once it's fleshed out and we can.
Yeah.
We can
Maybe that's what we need.
consider it.
Yaron deals a lot with that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just before we wrap up, I guess I was asked to just advise the community, this committee, that we received a report from a member of our community that the park fountain at Albert Capsuto Park, which is located at Canal Church in Barrett, is not working. So fountain, the fountain in the park.
Thank you so much.
You know
Thanks very much.
Good night.
And that's in our district needs.
Just Zach.
But yeah, it's already in our district needs where we
Right.
compiled it with the other
Yeah.
fountains.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Yeah, unfortunate, but yeah, it's on the list.
Okay, Paul, are we okay to adjourn?
I just told, Friends of City Hall Park that we mentioned to people that they are holding some events later this month for trees, and if anyone's interested, we have some flyers.
Yeah, I think they're in the room.
Yeah, they're in the room and
Is
Yes,
that an
good,
email?
good.
I sent out an email as well.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much.